Are you drifting through life? Do you want to create? Do you have the urge to do something else with your life, but you have absolutely no idea how to start? Did you start down a path that you were really enthusiastic about, but somehow, you just didn't stick through it? You fell off the path, you kind of lost interest, or there are impediments in your way. It's so easy. There are so many pitfalls. It's just so easy to kind of fall down, crash, and give up and say, I'm just going to stop. I'm going to go back to my old life. But, I'm here to tell you that there are a lot of different ways to go about finding someone to mentor you on a path. And so, first of all, you have to be willing to do a couple different things. The first thing is you have to be willing to jump into the deep end. You have to get way outside of your comfort zone, and you have to try something new. And that can be very scary. It can feel like you're drowning. You might be afraid of looking stupid. You might be afraid of, not fitting in or not understanding the field. But with informal education and experimental education and the variety of resources that are now available to people who are interested and want to learn, both in books, online, and in various programs, you really can jump right into the deep end and get out of your comfort zone in a way that feels more natural, and the other people are experimenting too, just like you. So what do you really need to not drown in the deep end? Well, you need a mentor. You need someone to kind of grab you by the hand and pull you up, out of your drowning state as you're struggling. And someone that cares about you, someone that, is personally invested in you. And this relationship can happen in a whole variety of different ways. So I found that, mentors are not necessarily these great people that just appear. They are made, they are not born. So someone, somewhere along the line, invested in this person. They said, hey, I see myself in you. Something in you, reminds me of me when I was younger. I've actually had someone say this to me. And it creates a bond between you. It shows that, one, there's empathy and understanding, and two, there's a mutual admiration. You want a mentor that you admire, someone you want to be like. So, how does this work since mentors are made, right? Well, there's a couple different ways that this can happen. So there's the traditional way. This is the way that everyone kind of expects a mentoring relationship to happen. So this is where you have a game plan. You've been hired at a job, perhaps, or you have a formal mentoring coach, and they create a plan for you. And you work on it, and you have specific goals that you set. And you try and meet those goals, and it's a much more formal relationship. Then, you could teach yourself. There are books available. The internet is a fantastic place to get all kinds of information on anything that you would want to know. And while that doesn't seem like mentoring, when you find someone who's taken the time to distill a little part of themselves into their documentation, all the things that they've done, their build logs for their projects, the things that they've worked on. They've taken the time to experience all of these things and to internalize it and interpret it. And then they write it down, and they pass it along to you and to everyone. Anyone can access it, and it's a way of reaching out and touching people in a way that is truly fantastic, because you have no idea who you're going to touch and mentor through these things. I've often had people contact me from some of the documentation that I've done, and it's always a really fulfilling experience to have someone say, you changed my life because of what you wrote down, because you created a resource that I could access. It really put me in an entirely different place. And oddly enough, even though there's this great distance, you may have never met in person, they somehow feel close to you because you've put a part of your soul into this documentation, because you're passionate about it, because you truly care about your topic, you're passionate about your project, and you want to convey that and share that with others. The other way that mentoring can happen is just observationally. You can have someone you meet and you become friends with, and they live perhaps a kind of an out-of-the-box life. And you find each other and you have a mutual admiration, and you start to work together. Maybe it's informally, maybe it's on projects you're both passionate about, but they teach by example. So you watch them, you see how they interact with others. And you want to be like them. You want to do what they do because you see it's successful for them. So why couldn't it be successful for you? And so there are some people that don't embrace that formal game plan mentorship style, even if they are your boss. They really go more along the lines of they do it, you see them do it, and they're happy when you succeed and you pattern themselves after them, even if they never mention it. So the game plan, tell some stories. So I had graduated from grad school. I studied to be an information architect, and this was a totally new field for me. Previously, I had been in social science, and the economy was terrible. Every time I graduate, the economy is terrible. And so the job hunt is very difficult and demoralizing. And so I was hunting and searching and going on interviews. And when you have a lot of people to pick from, everyone wants more experience than you have. So what you really need is someone that wants to take a chance on you, that wants to mentor you, I guess, because they see themselves in you. They see that they were at this point, at one point. Someone took a chance on them. And my first boss, Sarah Nosko, actually explained it to me this way. After I'd been hired, it was my first information architecture job, she said, do you know why I hired you? And I said, no, I'm really curious about that. I saw some of the other people that you were interviewing. I felt like they were more qualified, they had more experience. I said, why did you hire me? And she said, you had the right kind of brain. Now, that didn't mean that I was smarter than anyone else. It meant that the way that I thought, the things that I was passionate about, the things that I wanted to bring to the work that we were doing, were similar to the way that she approached it. And that she could see part of herself in me, past self. And so she took me on and trained me up and really kind of imbued her wisdom and taught me how to think further, to how to use my innate skill and my natural way of thinking to apply that to my new job and be successful at it. And so that's a very kind of game plan way of mentoring someone. So my next story is a little bit later on. I'd been working as an information architect for about 6-7 years. I had been commuting a rather long distance, and the commute got be a little much. And so I decided to take a job much closer to home. I thought that I was extremely lucky to find a job that was 2 minutes from my house. How lucky can you get, right? Unfortunately, about 5 months into it, I was laid off, as was half the company. It was about 7 people, and they laid off about 4. So that seems like a misfortune. Oh no, I have no job. But it was actually a great opportunity. And the opportunity was that I was able to try something new. And so I thought, well, I'm going to embrace a radical change. I have this opportunity. I've been hearing about some really interesting things I want to try. I think I'll try that. And so as an interaction designer, an information architect, someone that takes experiences and figures out how people need to interact with technology and tries to design interfaces that make that very clear, I was really inspired about designing interfaces that were offline. Things that you were interacting with sensors. Physical computing was a term that was being used. In Arduino, the Arduino microcontroller platform for sketching with artists and designers instead of programmers that were writing lines and lines of code. The goal was to get farther faster, to do it quickly. So I started looking for electronics courses. I could have taken the university route, in which I studied everything, and it took years before I did anything applied. Or I randomly came across this program called the Fab Academy. It's an experimental educational program run by Neil Gershenfeld of the MIT Center for Bits and Atoms. He teaches a rapid prototyping course using these computer-controlled machines in the fall. In the spring, outside of MIT, at these labs that we have around the world, we call it the Fab Academy. And it's the same course, but just taught in a different way to non-MIT students. So I said, this seems way out of my comfort zone. I don't have any programming experience. I don't have any CNC machine experience. I don't even have a lot of digital design experience. I'm not a graphic artist. So I said, well, whatever. I'm going to do it. I'm doing it. Just going to dive right on in. And that required a huge commitment, but I just said, it's happening. I'm up the challenge. So I did. I dove in. And this was one of our first assignments. And I was like, what? What is this? I had no idea what this was at all. I had no idea how to do it or apply it. And that was very scary to me. I thought, what have I taken on? I've just, devoted myself to this. But then I saw this. And if you see the little red circle, these gurus. Who are these gurus? Who are these people? And you notice there's nothing below that. It just says gurus. So I went out and I tried to find a mentor. And there was someone that I followed at a distance. His name was David Mellis. He wrote excellent documentation. So where the Fab Academy documentation was lacking, the How to Make course at MIT that it was based on had been running for a while. And there were MIT students that had documented their work. Now, because the course is very intense, you learn a lot of things very, very quickly. One topic a week, 19 weeks, design, document, prototype. Next topic. Most of the students barely got a build log down, much less explain anything or how to do it. But David Mellis did something different. He took a part of himself, and instead of just explaining all his failures and that he barely made it work, he wrote the why. He explained the how. And that really inspired me to do that for others. So this was a way of mentoring someone that I met him since, later on, but I didn't meet him at the time. We didn't have a direct relationship. So documentation can touch people if you put it up on the web and give it away. The out-of-the-box kind of relationship that I had was with someone personal. There is a colleague of mine, Brian Jepson. He is the type of person that is just completely selfless. And he is always looking to help others and further their careers. And he saw something in me that was like him in the past. And he told me that someone had really devoted a lot of time to him and really helped him. And so he wanted to do that for others. And he has always been there, kind of this guiding hand. But he is not hands-on. He is the type of person that you watch and emulate. He will never sit you down and give you a lesson. And so there's many different types of mentoring relationships. So all of this really inspired me. How do I make mentors? How do I build? How do I scale? With the Fab Academy, there were so few of us. We started out 7 that pilot year, and now we have over 175 students. That's a lot to teach in a very hands-on way, where you're meeting people where they are. The program is very free. The structure of the assignments is very loose. We teach anyone from artists with no programming or engineering skill to people with advanced skills but no design skills. And so it's a great mix, and you really need to create these resources to get people farther faster. So how do you do this? How do you achieve this? Because when I taught, you have this one-on-one relationship with your students in person. And that's great. You can really be there. You can really go that extra mile for them. But, what happens when you get big? And 175 people doesn't sound that big, but if you're grading all of their work, as I was at one point, not quite that many, maybe 75, but if you're, you need to scale. You need to bring up others that know what you know. You almost need to find a way to clone yourself. And you need to teach the teachers. You need to make others like you. And that comes into the getting farther faster bit. If you document it, if you put it together, and if you take a part of yourself and you put it out there where that other people can read it in a step-by-step way and get there much faster. Because no one wants to go to school forever just